because the goal is certainty, whether it is cloudy or not. And if it cannot be determined today with certainty that the moon is there, on 30th it is automatically understood it is going to be there. So nobody believes that seeing it on 30th day is obligatory. Announcement is made without seeing and even beforehand. So it tells you that the hadith of Rasulullah sallam, la tasumu hatta taraw al-hilal, or sumu li ru'yati wa aftiru li ru'yati, is not determining this hadith as the only sole method of determining the month of Ramadan, but it is telling you connect it with a certain, accurate and certain method of determining the new moon, because the new moon will determine the sacred timing. It is pertinent to mention here that the moon sighting with naked eye is not even obligatory when it comes to the 29th day of Sha'ban or 29th day of Ramadan. When we look into the historical incidents, we are told that some of the Sahaba Ridwanullah alayhim ajma'in started the month of Ramadan even without looking into the moon sighting or even completing the 30 days of Ramadan. They followed the hadith of Rasulullah sallam, faqturula, estimated or calculated, and by counting the days, they started the month of Ramadan after the 29th day of Sha'ban without waiting for the moon sighting or without completing 30 days. I will give you an example that there is a clear-cut incident in which many of the Sahaba, including Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Umar radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, who is the original narrator of the hadith of Sumu li ru'yati, waftiru li ru'yati, or la tasumu hatta taraw al-hilal, wa la tuftiru hatta tarahu, as we have mentioned earlier. There were times when Abdullah ibn Umar radiyallahu ta'ala anhu will go out on the 29th day of Sha'ban, and if it is not cloudy and the moon is not sighted, then he will complete 30 days. But if it is cloudy and the moon is not sighted because of the cloudy weather or obscurities, then he will start fasting the next day and accept it or fast it as the first day of the month of Ramadan and would not wait for 30 days. What does it tell you? It tells you that on even 29th day of Sha'ban, if the moon is not sighted because of the obscurities or because of the clouds, then some of the Sahaba, they started the month of Ramadan without sighting the moon and without completing the 30 days. So from within the actions of Sahaba Ridwanullah alayhim ajma'in, we know that they started the month of Ramadan without actual moon sighting and without actually completing 30 days with a third method, which is estimation or calculation. And they made the hadith of Rasulullah sallam as their blueprint. They explain the word faqdurula dayyqula, because the word faqduru can come in the meaning of estimation, calculation, and also in the meaning of shortening something, decreasing something. And the Quran has used this in the famous verse in Allah, yabsutur rizqa liman yasha'u wa yaqdir, that certainly Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala extends the sustenance of whomsoever He wants and decreases the rizq or the sustenance of the people whosoever He wants. وَمَنْ قُدِرَ عَلَيْهِ رِزْقَهُ فَلْيُنْفِقْ مِمَّا آتَاهُ اللَّهُ. And then the word qudira, yaqdir, dayyqa, to decrease something, shorten something, is part of the Quranic terminology. So following Abdullah ibn Umar, Umar radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, Sayyida Aisha, and many of the other Sahaba, Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal rahmatullah alayh, he has built his entire fiqh school based upon this interpretation of faqdurula. So he believes that if on the 29th day of Sha'ban, the moon is not sighted and it is cloudy, then even without sighting the new moon or without concluding the 30 days, a person, a Muslim, should start the month of Ramadan, because he really wants to make sure that we do not miss even one single day of the sacred timing, because what if it was there and we could not see it because of the cloudy weather? So he does not want to take any risk and starts the month of Ramadan just by calculation, by decreasing the month or counting 29 days. Now, Ibn Qudama, one of the stalwarts of Hanbali school, writing something or explaining this action of Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu ta'ala, he says that look at the ahadith. Most of the ahadith, sumu li ru'yati wa aftiru li ru'yati. Observe the fasting by sighting the moon and stop the fasting by sighting the moon are narrated by Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu ta'ala. Wa huwa rawi. He is the original narrator of most of these ahadith. Wa a'lam bima'nahu. And he understands the true meaning of sight and fast, sight and stop fasting more than anybody else. He has also learnt it from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. وَفَسَّرَهُ بِعَمَلِهِ or وَفَسَّرَهُ بِفِعْلِهِ. He is explaining the meaning of the sumu li ru'yati wa aftiru li ru'yati by his actions. He is not sighting the moon on 29th when it is cloudy, but starting the month of Ramadan. So accordingly, you have to understand that فَيَجِبُ الرُّجُوعِ إِلَى تَفْسِيرِ, that it is our responsibility to now turn towards his explanation of this hadith and see when the sighting is obligatory and when the sighting is not required. So therefore, what I'm trying to say is, my brothers and sisters, that all these three methods have been followed by the Ummah, by the scholars of this Ummah. Either naked eye sighting on 29 days, or making the announcement on 29 days that not tomorrow but the day after tomorrow will be Ramadan or Eid. Or some of the scholars have not required either the sighting or the completion in the situation when it is cloudy, and they started the month of Ramadan without sighting and without completion. So that tells you that all three are the valid options. Therefore, to come and to just confine the starting of the month of Ramadan only to one method and requiring it as an obligation and saying that month of Ramadan cannot be started except through naked eye sighting is not valid. We have got plenty of other options, especially three other options, which are given by Rasulullah Sallam and which are applied by the learned scholar of this Ummah. I'm not saying here that Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal rahmatullah alayhi or some of the other Sahaba, they said that you go by calculations and you do not sight. No, Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal was against calculation. Many of the other scholars of the classical time were against calculations. But remember one thing, the calculations at their times were done by the magicians and by the astrologers. And the magicians and the astrologers, they used to do the calculation and look at the palms and talk about ilm al-ghaibs, unseen. Something will happen to you tomorrow. Something will happen to you after 5 years. Do this one to avoid this kind of evil. Your star is something good. Your star is bad. So they used to use these calculations for the sake of playing with the Iman and with the faith of common Muslims. Therefore, as Ibn Abdul Bir has said it, that the issue is not calculations, but the issue is the impact of these astrologers and magicians and the way they use these calculations. They try to destroy the Aqidah, the faith of a Muslim. So it's not an issue of just applying it to the month of Ramadan or to the month of Sha'ban, but the issue is the way these magicians and astrologers used to apply it and talk about the unseen and make the common Muslim believe in certain superstitions and bid'at and khurafat which will take them away from the fold of Islam. At the same time, those calculations were not specific, they were not accurate and precise. All of us, we know that till 16th century, the astronomy was connected with what we call the Ptolemaic worldview. And the Greek Ptolemaic worldview was that the world is geocentric, that the earth is the center of the whole universe, and the sun and the moon and the stars, they revolve around the earth. Muslim astronomers, they were very good in observation. They have tried to correct some of the faults in the Ptolemaic worldview and astronomical principles. But because the system itself was based upon faulty foundations, they could not do much. It was in the 16th century Copernicus and Kepler who tried to put it on the right footing, and first time came out and said the word is not geocentric, it is solocentric. It's not the whole universe revolving around the earth, but the earth is revolving in its fixed orbit around the sun. And I will not deny the contribution of Tusi and Ibn Shatir and some of the other Muslim astronomers who corrected these faults in the Ptolemaic worldview, but believe me, they have not used it to refute or completely reject the Ptolemaic position. It was in the 16th century when Copernicus and Kepler were able to first time apply it, and following them, Isaac Newton and the rest of them, they put it on the right foundations. So therefore, astronomy during the medieval times, during the classical times, was there, but it was on the wrong footing. And nowadays, the calculations are not mathematically calculated. They are astronomical calculations which are connected with the precise movement of the moon and the sun, and they are as accurate as you can ever think of. The probability is not there. The certainty is there. So therefore, when we talk about astronomical calculations, we are not talking about the magicians, we are not talking about the astrologers, we are talking about the scientists. Those scientists who are not playing with the aqidah of the people, the scientists who are not trying to give some kind of news about the future ilm al-ghaib. But this is a scientific field in itself, and it is connected with the celestial bodies' movements, and it has got nothing to do with religiosity, with faith, or with superstitions. So therefore, when Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal rahmatullah alayh, or Imam Ibn Taymiyyah, or Abu Bakr al-Jassas, or Ibn al-Arabi rahmatullah alayhim ajma'een, they rejected calculations. They rejected it not only because they were against the Sunnah, but because they were also based upon faulty line and had some wrong implications.